Before we get started, just a quick note, spoiler alert.
And we are adults, and I will try very hard not to use adult language, but this is the warning.
Hello, and welcome back to Last Library on the Left. My name is Jennifer.
And I'm Serena. We're a horror review and discussion podcast where we talk about horror in books, movies, and other formats, why we seek it out, and why we need it in our lives.
And today we finally close the chapter on Stephen King because he has done a number on my brain. And thank you for that, sir. But before we do that, I have a present for Serena because she's been gone for a long time and I just see things online and I'm like, I purchase. I have the exact same one, so.
And we haven't seen each other aside from that coffee date where we kind of mostly did business stuff, and then lunch yesterday where I told you about some of the
right, yeah.
But
we haven't seen each other in a long time.
Yeah, it's been, well, I mean, it hasn't been forever, but it feels like forever.
It feels like forever.
All right. Oh, I have the exact same stamps.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. We share one brain, y'all.
Yes, they're actually right there above you between those two comic stacks. They're the ones I use.
I was like, that's for your house and stuff. Send me some mail.
That's hilarious.
But that was timely. I think it was because the internet knew what I was reading when we were doing In the Tall Grass, and so it sent me that, and I was like, purchase. I think it's a scratch off.
Oh my god, I've seen these online and I've wanted one forever.
So, yeah.
Okay, well now I have another thing to get through.
Yeah. So it's like one of those pop charts, because y'all obviously can't see it, and it's 100 horror movies to scratch off. When you scratch it off, it's a different cover than what's featured there right there.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, I have the same one. We can cut off it on this one.
True.
Or scratch off, sorry.
Well, and that's the thing is that, like, I'm looking at them and I'm like, well, I've absolutely watched quite a few of these, but I think I'm going to scratch them off after I rewatch them.
Yeah. Yeah, I have it on my wall at home and I'm like, I'm not going to scratch off anything until we do it together.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I like that.
I love it. There was another one that was whiskeys and I was like tempted, but I was like, do I really want to get into that? No, I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, I saw the classic literature one.
Yeah.
And I've wanted one. Oh, but I like the horror one way
The
more.
horror one
That's
for sure, yeah.
I find it to be a riot. Because I just got down to my last two. Because, y'all, I'm the type of person who will pay her bills with checks through the mail.
Yeah.
Like a weirdo.
I do too. And so I always need forever stamps because they're the best. And I saw those when I was buying myself forever stamps. I was like, oh, I'm going to get these for Serena.
Good timing. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
So much.
We just needed something fun because it's been a crappy couple weeks with all these Stephen King nonsense. Y'all, listen, In the Tall Grass did me in mentally really, really bad.
Yeah, you weren't able to enjoy other things.
Yeah, so it was a lot, psychologically speaking.
Yeah, it took me forever to edit the episode because I would be like, I hate hearing this again. So I apologize to anybody who heard In the Tall Grass and was like, no thank you. Because same.
Yes, same. Never again. And people are like, oh, I should watch it. I was like, don't watch it. Just listen to what we said about it and then don't watch it.
Right. Sometimes I have really terrible ideas. And by sometimes, I mean majority of the time.
We were so gung-ho too. Like, yeah, In the Tall Grass.
So naive.
So
naive still in our 30s. What is up with that?
I don't know. I thought I'd be wiser by now, but I guess not.
No. My dumb butt does the 31 Days of Horror novellas.
Oh man, we're so ambitious. So I guess before we go through just talking about it, so we're going to cover briefly the 1990 release, the 2017 release, and the 2019 release, which is the old It with Tim Curry, and then the new one with Bill Skarsgård. So let me go through.
Well, first let's say why we're not talking about the book.
Oh, yeah, because I won't read it.
Well, and I won't read it because when I finished Pet Sematary, I think the next one on my list was it. And someone advised me about a particular scene, and I'm not going to read that.
Yeah, I read it way back when, and I watched the movie, which it's a TV miniseries, but sorry, for me it's a movie because that's how I consumed it. But I read it, watched it, and that was the last Stephen King book I ever read until In the Tall Grass, which was a short story. And then that reminded me why I don't read Stephen King.
Right.
And yeah, so I never watched the newer It movies because of how scarred I was from the original series. And then when Sydney's like, let's do It, I was like, okay. Okay. It's kind of like, how do I do this? But they were refreshingly good, actually.
They really were. Bill Hader, I mean, he's great.
Yeah. So I guess let's just go ahead and get into the credits. We're going to just do all the credits for everything right now. So the 1990 It cast and crew was directed by Tommy Lee Wallace. And of course, the writing credits are Stephen King, Tommy Lee Wallace, and Lawrence D. Cohen. Starring Harry Anderson as Richie Tozer, Dennis Christopher as Eddie Kasbrock, Richard Mosser as Stanley Uris, Annette O'Toole as Beverly Marsh, Tim Reed as Mike Hanlon, John Ritter as Ben Hanscom, Richard Thomas as Bill Denbrough, Tim Curry as Pennywise, Jonathan Brandis as young Bill Denbrough, Brandon Crane as young Ben, Adam Farazal as young Eddie, Seth Green as young Richie, Ben Heller as young Stanley, Emily Perkins as young Beverly, Marlon Taylor as young Mike, Jared Blancard as young Henry, and Michael Cole as Henry Bowers. So, cast and crew for It 2017. It was directed by Andy Muschietti. Writing credits Chase Palmer, Kerry Joji Fukunaga, and Gary Dauberman. And of course, based on the novel by Stephen King.
We never claim to be unbiased. Just
want
to say that.
Yeah, listen, guys, like, love his son, love Joe Hill. Blech, Stephen King. Okay, so here we go. Jaden Martell as Bill, Jeremy Ray Taylor as Ben, Sophia Lillis as Beverly, Finn Wolfhard as Richie, Chosen Jacobs as Mike, Jack Dylan Grazer as Eddie, Wyatt Olef as Stanley, Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise, Nicholas Hamilton as Henry Bowers. And It Chapter 2, directed by Andy Muschietti, and the screenplay by Gary Dauberman. Cast Jessica Chastain, Beverly Marsh, James McAvoy as Bill, Bill Hader as Richie, Isaiah Mustafa as Mike, Jay Ryan as Ben, which, oh my god, was he handsome. James Ransone as Eddie, Andy Bean as Stanley, Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise, and then, of course, Teach Grant as Henry Bowers. And just a basic summary, the town of Derry has been haunted by this ancient entity, which the kids know as Pennywise, but they call him It. And it takes the form of a clown. And that's the basic summary.
The It entity has set on a cycle of 27 years for hunting and then I guess hibernation?
Yeah, I guess in preparation for new blood.
Yeah, I guess the children that are left over from the hunt who have now had children, he can prey upon.
Which, let me just say, the town of Derry, the adults in that town aren't very smart.
Right.
Because they haven't caught on to that trend.
Well, they don't forget unless they leave Derry.
Right. But they seem very oblivious to what's happening in the town.
Yeah. Also, Derry is very small for a sewer system that big. Can we just...
Yes!
Okay.
That was a huge sewer system. Like big city us.
Right. Bayou City type stuff.
Yeah.
That was unnecessary.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it wasn't. Unless the city's in on it, you know?
Ooh,
like we discussed in the Tall Grass, where there's this unspoken understanding that if you're going to live here, you have to participate in this culling of sorts.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I'm not a big fan of because, y'all, ain't nowhere worth living.
No.
To do that.
Yeah. Especially with kids.
Especially with kids. Anytime I come across a horror movie or a story where the premise is the inhabitants participate, whether tacitly or actively, with the culling of their own population in order to retain either a sense of paradise or a sense of normalcy or a sense of whatever, like The Village by M. Night Shyamalan.
Dude.
I don't appreciate, because yes, humans can be absolute dickbags a lot of the time, but I don't buy that concept. I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't buy it.
I mean, and if that was like the concept that they were going after, the people in Derry didn't seem like they were thriving, really, right?
That's a good point, because there were areas of downtown that were sick for sure.
Yeah, so I don't know. I wish that they would have explored that a little bit more, and I don't think that we're gonna get a chapter 3 of the newer series or anything, but like I said, very well done. The newer ones, very well done. I think in the old one, I would try to watch it, and I got to the point where the adults, I think they just contacted Stanley to come back, and that was where I was like, can't watch it. I've had enough, so I'm just gonna tell you guys. So the original It scarred me in a way that I don't know that I can explain, and so I'm gonna compare it to Nightmare on Elm Street, which hands down favorite horror movie. Freddy Krueger, love him, BFFs forever.
Which we'll have to dissect one day for sure.
We are gonna have to dissect it, because one of the things that Sadine and I discovered when we started 31 Days is we interpret horror in completely different ways, and we consume different types of horror.
Yeah.
And they're the exact opposite of each other. Yeah. And we didn't realize that until 31 Days.
Because I think we have a lot of surface level overlap.
Yeah.
Everybody who likes horror also likes these things.
Yeah.
But then there's things that we niche really enjoy.
Yeah. And so that's going to be such a fascinating episode. I can't wait to talk about that.
Oh yeah, that's going to be another Boundaries episode too.
Yeah. So one of the things that I love about Freddy is the comical parts of it, because it was very comical. But for those that haven't watched A Nightmare on Elm Street, because I realize I am an 80s kid and it was so long ago, the villain of Nightmare on Elm Street got into your dreams and used your fears against you. But in It, Pennywise instinctively kind of knew what your fears were. And he used them on you while looking like Bozo the freaking clown. He wasn't scarred like Freddy was. Freddy looked scary. And to me, without any of the added extra digitizing of the new It Pennywise, he just looked like a clown. He didn't look all that bad.
But for the time, though, that was very frightening. Because, like you said, Gacy, even, 10 years ago, people who were stepping out of the woods and standing on dark roads as clowns.
And I think there was a Twitter account about a decade ago, and it was a clown account, and he would say where he was going to next to kill somebody. And he would say, I'm going to target this school. And I can't remember where it was. And that kind of started all of that clown nonsense, with people just kind of randomly standing around in clown costumes.
Right.
But when I grew up, clowns, they weren't that scary. They were just there at parties. So, when I watched It as a teen, I was like, no, I grew up with clowns. This is wrong.
Well, and have you seen the documentary about Wrinkles the Clown?
No.
So I think it's somewhere in Florida, but there's this guy who he dresses up as a clown. Parents hire him, and he dresses up as a clown to scare children who are behaving badly.
Oh my god.
And the parent hires him to do this, to scare their kids. He has a phone number you can call in when your kid's misbehaving. And in the documentary, they'll threaten and they're like, I'm gonna call Wrinkles. And the kid's like, no, don't call Wrinkles. And then they'll call, and he will it's just his presence that is frightening to the children. He's not actually ever done anything.
Yeah.
But you saw the picture. He's pretty scary looking.
Yeah, he's very scary looking.
But he's just some guy who, this is just what he does. It's his job. So this is something that's been in practice. I think that's what Pennywise sparked.
Yeah. So gross. And so I did watch a little bit of the old one. Like I said, I stopped after a while because I was like, this is a hard no for me. But I wrote down in my notes that Tim Curry's clown freaks me out a little bit more. But there were some aspects of Skarsgård that really freaking freaked me the F out.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you that beginning scene of the very first It, where he's in the manhole and he's got the blue eyes and he looks so childlike and he's talking to Georgie, and oh my gosh. At first I was like, stupid Sadina, why did she make me watch this? But he wasn't a scary leader. The fact that he can make himself childlike and appealing to this little boy, and you know my name, I know yours, we're not strangers anymore, right?
Man, ooh, y'all. That scene happened, I was like, that is the exact line of Predators.
Yeah.
Like yes, I was a latchkey kid, but how many times did you hear that growing up? You ran into a stranger on the street, and they were like, well, now you know my name, so we're not strangers. And I remember as a child thinking, that's some horse shit.
Yeah.
You are not gonna get me like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. It was really scary. I was really freaked out. But I also like the way he portrayed himself as an ancient demon. Because I feel like we got more of that with him than we did with Tim Curry.
Yeah.
But again, I never watched further to see because it's just, listen guys, I grew up with Bozo the Clown. I grew up with Ronald McDonald the Clown. I was telling Sadina in pre-production that Ronald McDonald used to come to the libraries. So why would I be afraid of him? So I grew up with a clown. So now to take this seemingly goofy thing and just make it evil was just bleh. But I love Skarsgård's interpretation of Pennywise.
I really did too. I think that part of Skarsgård's facial makeup really gave a lot of that. I mean, I know it was part CGI too, but some of it really was his facial structure.
Right.
There's, the uncanny valley where when you see someone, for me personally, when I see someone with plastic surgery done to their face, even small things like lip injections or cheekbone type stuff, my brain immediately goes, that's not human, don't trust it.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be offensive. It's just the way that my brain works.
Yeah.
So when you see Skarsgård's Pennywise, my brain is like, that's not human, don't trust it.
Yeah. Which, did you know that it wasn't CGI when he did the lazy eye? He's trained to do that on his own.
Ew, why would you do that? Sorry, my mom was an eye doctor, so I'm visually seeing the retinal cord
So I wanted to look up the makeup and how they came up with the makeup idea for Pennywise this go around, because I felt like the red lines going from his mouth over his eyes, I felt like that was kind of symbolic of whenever there was a cut to him or anything and the blood would kind of rise to the air.
Because it floats.
It floated, right?
Girl.
I was looking for someone to verify that I was correct in my thinking, but no one did. So I am correct in my thinking because I will verify it for myself.
That you just blew my mind.
But that's what I thought. It was floating, right?
Yeah.
And so I was looking for it. And so that's when I saw where he's like, oh yeah, I did the eye thing myself. They didn't have to do it in post. And I was like, oh, that's kind of creepy. Yeah. And then I also saw that he tried to do sort of a Heath Ledger Joker type of method. But rather than getting as deep as Heath Ledger did with a Joker, he kind of pulled himself back and he observed bears and hyenas for their predatory ways. And I was like, that's really gross too.
The hyena freaks me out a bit more.
Yeah. But I could kind of see the hyena in him because he was kind of quick and stuff.
But also his laughter.
Yeah.
Whoa. I really think that, don't get me wrong, Tim Curry is classic.
Yeah.
He's Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Right.
He's the devil in Legend. He's classic.
Yeah.
But Skarsgård really brought Pennywise to life in a way that
Tim Curry didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was no disrespect to Tim Curry.
No, not at all. Just I think that there's a lot more access to information for actors and actresses these days. There's better networking. There's better worldwide information. There's just better knowledge of also how psychology works and how that can be applied to every field.
Yeah.
Including acting, so that's interesting.
Yeah, I really enjoyed reading about the bears and the hyenas, because that's kind of freaky, but that's also kind of on point.
It is, because who would have, that's a very brilliant, that's a person who is in touch with their craft.
Yeah, I also remember reading that the costuming, they wanted this clown costume to appear more childlike, which is why there is more ruffles and more ballooning and stuff. And I was like, well, that's also kind of gross too, because
it makes sense though.
Yeah, it makes sense, especially since he can appeal to kids as a childlike. It's so gross. Just bleh.
I like that they put that much thought into it.
Me too. Me too.
Costume design and cinematography, y'all.
It has come a long way.
It really has.
And they deserve so much credit.
Yeah. I listened to a podcast, The Office Ladies, that talk about the behind the scenes stuff, hidden things in the office. And sometimes they talk about the stuff that you couldn't even visually see on camera.
Yeah.
You're like, you do that much work that eventually just comes out for you. I respect that a lot.
Yeah, I think they do an amazing job. I also saw that he does something with his mouth, that he said something about, there's a trick that he learned to do with his mouth and his teeth that he wanted to bring to some character in a film, and he decided it was going to be with Pennywise. But when he opened his mouth, I was scared with all those teeth, so I didn't research that even further because I didn't want to look.
Oh, see, now I'm curious. I gotta know what it was, because I felt there was something different about his face.
Let me look it up, because I was like, teeth. Oh, yeah. So it's the way he positioned his mouth. He can position his bottom lip in the triangle that he normally does. That's not CGI. And so he wanted to bring it to life in a character. And so he was like, Pennywise.
I mean, yeah, it worked.
Because here's a picture of him doing it. Just...
Huh. He's a funny looking dude.
Yeah, it's kind of, I think he's related to Alexander Skarsgård.
He is. They're all like half siblings or something.
Yeah.
Because he's related to one of the Skarsgårds in Vikings as well.
Ooh, Gustav.
Yeah. But they're all like half related.
Yeah.
Through their dad, I think. Although I will say that Bill Skarsgård was in a Netflix adaptation of Hemlock Grove. And
Yeah.
I really liked him in that. That was also my favorite werewolf transformation of all time.
Really? Yeah. Okay, you know, now I'm gonna have to watch it.
It was really good. It was just the way that they interpreted the transition. It was very good. But loved him in Hemlock Grove.
I saw a lot of praise for him for Hemlock Grove, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to watch it now. And now you make me want to watch it, so yeah, there we go. Let's see, I also wanted to mention that it's very rude that these kids couldn't turn to any real adult. None of the adults were helpful in any of these movies.
Although that's very realistic, especially for the 80s when this was set.
Yeah.
Yes, I was a latchkey kid, but I could go to my mom, but...
Luckily, we could go to our parents with most stuff because they were... Listen, that's a conversation for another day. But my parents, they were just so busy working and trying to get us out of being poor, I feel. So they were just always so busy, and then when they were home, they were always so tired. But I know if there was a significant problem, they would handle it. And we used to summer in Canada, and that sounds so bougie, but like... I'm from Canada, and I know it was so they would drive us up there and leave us there with my grandma. And it was so we can get to know our cousins, but I also know it was so that they could work their jobs without having to deal with kids. Because my dad he ran like a tire shop, and so when we weren't at school, we were in the tire shop. And to have 3 girls messing around is probably not the best thing. And then for a while, they did the tire shop, and then they also ran a U-Haul business on the side. So they have to drive the trucks, right? So I'm pretty sure they're like, we don't need 3 kids messing around.
That's fair.
Especially when at that time we were like, let's call 911. Listen, shush. We just wanted to play.
Oh my gosh. Jennifer, y'all were those kids.
We were bad. No, I mean, we weren't bad.
No,
we were just...
That's like next level mischievous.
Yeah.
Because my mom, so before Nadine was born, my mom taught me the importance of 911. Yeah. And I think we had just fled Houston to leave, like, my father and, like, his abusive whatever. Yeah. And I remember her pretending to be dead or choking on her bed. And she was like, so what do you do if mommy's dying? And I, like, pressed, like, pretended to press 911. And she, like, taught me scripts. Yeah. For, like, house on fire, mom dying, mom poisoning, someone hurting mom. Yeah. So I, like, whenever I hear about kids playing with 911, I was like, who would do that? That was you!
That was me. That was me and my sisters.
Granted, my mom shouldn't have gone into the details that she did for those scenarios, so I'm not one to judge, but...
That was us! I mean, listen, there's only so many mud pies you can make as a child in a tire shop. I mean, we did some really, like, I remember, because my dad had, like, shelves and shelves and shelves of tires, and so we would climb up the shelves of the tire. I don't know. Wow. We were bad. Listen, I broke my arm once because I was jumping off the table, so I don't know. Wow. We did things, okay?
And that all to say that these kids should have been able to go to their parents.
Right.
Like, we were 80s babies. Yeah. And we still were able, but the thing is, too, is that would Derry, because it felt like a sick town. Yeah. You know? The people who were there were stuck there, or part of some system that was oppressive. And so, that's still tragic, though. Yeah, it was really just... I also enjoyed that they came back as adults to protect future kids. Yes. You know? So I was like, well, it came back full circle, I guess. They were the adults we wanted them to be. Yes. I also always forget Trash Mouth's real name, because I always think of him as Trash Mouth.
Richie, I think?
I don't know. And then I can only remember the actors' names, Bill Hader and Finn Wolfhard.
Richie, I think.
He was such a great character in the new one. I wish I had seen the old one. I can't remember who played him now, and I just went off the list.
I think it was Seth Green that played him as young Richie.
Oh, that makes sense. I do remember you saying Seth Green.
Yeah. Seth Green was young Richie, and Harry Anderson was Richie as the older. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Now, one of the things that I wanted to just kind of comment on as an 80s baby, a 90s kid, and a 2000s adult was the remakes. Because we're getting all the remakes now.
Yeah.
They're kind of getting on my nerves.
Really?
Yeah, because I feel like I could watch the original. I don't need the remake. I could watch the original fine. But in this case, I really liked it because I felt they stayed true to the story, expanded on the story, and gave us some things that we didn't get in the original.
Well, and the cast itself was very strong.
Yes,
on
yes.
both ends of the age.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons why I never watched the movie was because, one, I wasn't aware that scene that I was trying to avoid was there. But also, the timing, I guess, in my life wasn't right. And so, like, the cast wasn't something I was interested in. But the cast now, in this day and age, I watched it for everyone. It was amazing.
I watched it for Finn and Bill Hader.
Yeah. When I heard that Bill Hader was in it, I was like, yeah, please.
Yeah.
I love everything he does. One of my favorite movies of all time is with him and Kristen Wiig in The Skeleton Twins. It's so good.
Yeah.
He's a phenomenal actor with an amazing range.
And I love him in the Mindy Project. Because his character doesn't like spoilers. And he's everyone I know who doesn't like spoilers because I don't care about spoilers. So I would like to spoil something for his character. And I did tell Sedina in pre-production that there were some real life influences on Pennywise. And one of the things was Ronald McDonald. And Stephen King mentioned that he was a clown that everyone recognized at the time and he was trusted more or less. And so he was a big influence on how Pennywise the clown looked. Another thing that I wrote was the Stranger Danger thing I told you in pre-production. That was really big around that time because I remember that too. The commercials and in school being told about Stranger Danger. And so that was a big part of his influence creating Pennywise and creating the whole story. But the other one that he hasn't confirmed, but I'm pretty sure is the influence, is John Wayne Gacy. And for those that don't know, John Wayne Gacy was a sex offender and serial killer, and he dressed up as a clown, and he was arrested and convicted for 33 murders. So he was arrested and convicted in 1978, and I think Stephen King just started writing it in 1980. So he may not have said that was an influence, but I think it was an influence for him.
Well, it was definitely a big part of the cultural influence of the time. I've read before where clowns and jesters weren't really an aspect of fear until after people like John Wayne Gacy. And that was what, the last 40, 50 years?
Yeah,
it's entirely likely that he was influenced, whether or not he's outright stated. And the Stranger Danger too, because John Wayne Gacy, a clown, a children's clown at a party, was a very big staple in a lot of movies. In a lot, I mean, I never had one growing up, or knew anybody that did, but it's a trope, sure. And so the idea that there is one out there that is both a sex offender, which has become, I think, very synonymous with older men who dress up as clowns to be at children's parties, have become labeled, which is not fair, because people need to work. But John Wayne Gacy put that stigma there, and then he doubled as a serial killer too. The idea that this thing that you entrust to your children, and you know, maybe back in the 70s and 80s too, the parent wasn't actually at the party the whole time, they were with the other parents drinking in another room. So the fear that you are a negligent parent, part of the problem was you, and that now you've left your children unguarded with a predator. Wow, that actually is Derry.
Derry was so many family households in the 80s. I don't know.
Wow, Stephen King really threw a lot of shade back then.
I know.
He really called out a bunch of families. Although I've read some stuff about his influences for his books, and I think a lot of his, maybe not a lot, but I think some of his big horror titles are him calling himself out on his own fears. Because Pet Sematary was based on a fear of his son being hit by a car. Stanley Hotel was The Dream. So
it makes sense. It makes sense. I don't know, Stephen King. I don't know what to tell you about yourself, but you freaked me out. Anything else you wanted to add?
I do want to talk a bit about the last part of the movie, the second movie, where Pennywise was going through all of those drastic transformations as they tried to find his weakness and use his words against him and things like that. Was that in the first movie.
So in the old one, he didn't do the multiple transformations like he did in the new one.
So granted, I can't comparatively speak to this,
Mm-hmm.
but I felt like in the new one, there was a lot more reasons to fear their reality as well as Pennywise. The issues of racism, the shitty parents, but also like the very clearly abusive parents to Bev.
Yeah.
Oh my god, all of everything to do with Bev's dad made my skin crawl.
Yes.
I think there was a part where I thought I was either going to vomit
Mm-hmm.
or have to pause and walk away, where everything with her, and then the entity that was like also the female, and she was like, oh, I followed my father, so you'll do the same thing. And I was like, generational cycles of abuse, and it was like, so much, and I hated it. And then of course, you know, the queer element with Trash Mouth and Eddie, and there was just a better payoff there as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the transformation part at the end where they were using their fears as weapons against him and turning everything around and being strong, it felt so much more powerful.
Yeah.
And it felt like children being able to protect themselves after not being protected.
Yeah. So one of the things that I really enjoyed with the new one as opposed to the old one was how they really kind of fed into their fears as adults, right?
Yeah.
They really lived those fears. It was so hard for them to conquer those fears as adults as opposed to when they did it as they were kids.
Yes.
And I really liked that, one, the attention to detail was paid for that. Two, I liked that we got the payoff of them actually conquering it. And three, I liked the note from Stanley.
Yes, the note from Stanley. So I'm glad you brought that up, because Stanley, by the end of the two movies, Stanley actually turned out to be my favorite character, because for as much growth as the children had to go through to overcome their fears and basically save themselves, to be the adults that saved their inner child, that Stanley was so self-aware that he knew he was the weak link and would like, I don't know, it was, I don't condone suicide, I've lost friends to it, but I also really liked the way that it was used as a device to show strength in this particular moment. And also the strength of friendship. It was sad, but I really liked it.
Yeah. I mean, it was a movie, so we can appreciate it in a movie. This is not real life that we're talking about.
Right.
Because I appreciated that he knew that he had to go back, and he couldn't go back because he would hold the rest of the crew back. But if he didn't go back, there was no resolving the issue. So I get it. I understand it. Like I say, it was bittersweet, so I appreciated it. One of the things that I was telling Sedina that in the old one, they used a lot of the N-word in regards to young Mike, and it was, I was not okay.
Yeah, which I did not know because I've only seen the recent one.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that they were able to show abhorrent racism in a small town towards a small black child without resorting to using the N-word.
Yeah.
Because it would have felt gratuitous or like some form of exhibitionism where racism comes in many other forms.
Yeah.
We didn't need to have that re-traumatizing word in this particular instance. They could just show that people are shitty.
Yeah.
In general.
It took me back. Like, I was like, did I really hear that word? And then when they said it twice, and I was like, wait, they said it again. And I was like, oh my god, what am I watching?
Wow.
So it was really hard to watch the old one. And I mean, I know that things don't age well, but I don't know, maybe in my youth or whatever, I just didn't, I don't know. I didn't remember it. And I don't know if I have anything else to say about it except that I loved how strong Bev was.
Yes.
Regardless of her situation.
Yes.
And just be a strong female influence.
Although she married her fear. Her
I know.
father.
That was the one
was
thing
upsetting.
I was like, wait a minute. You know better. You came out of this, but I wonder if she
because
forgot.
they forgot everything.
Mm-hmm.
That was really hard to see just how bad her home life really was.
Mm-hmm. And I never got to that part in the old one. In the old one, she did marry an abusive man, but I didn't get into the part of the childhood trauma. Thank God.
I think that's something too about particular fears like racism, the sexual abuse or trauma of a child, that you can discuss those things in a manner without outright showcasing them.
Yeah.
To re-traumatize either the audience or the zeitgeist. You know, not to say that those things don't happen, but we're aware they happen.
Yeah.
We're not dumb. I know that people still use the N-word. I know that people use it to harm other people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an idiot, but I also don't think that needs to necessarily be shown in media.
No.
We're aware of it. It's kind of like within the tall grass, the way that he described the detaching of the fetus. It's like, as females, we're aware. You didn't have to write that scene as a man.
No.
It feels like grotesque.
Mm-hmm.
And so to avoid those same pitfalls in the more modern remake, I was very appreciative.
Yeah. As a mom, as a single mother, I am very aware of child abuse, sex abuse, and that's a big reason why I choose not to date. I don't want to have the potential of bringing one of those people into my house. I don't want the potential of exposing my child to someone who I don't know. Blech, blech. Like, I'm always constantly aware. People can say I'm paranoid. I don't care. I'm happy to be a paranoid freak when it comes to my kid and her physical, mental, emotional safety. Mm-hmm. So I'm fully aware. So I don't need to see it in a movie because I'm already thinking about it. I'm using the movie as an escape.
You can talk around a thing
to
give it space without giving it actual form. We know what the illusion is to. Yes. We don't need to see it.
No.
I was reading something about a guy who recently was allowing his freshly teenage daughter to listen to a true crime podcast with him, and he was like, it's about that time. She really needs to know how bad things can be out there. And he said within minutes of listening to the true crime podcast, she yells from the backseat, "Red flag!" And he was like, oh, she'll be good. Yeah. She's already aware. Yeah.
That's awesome parenting, Dad.
And I feel like that too is also with the new It movie, discussing those things on screen and showing them to the extent they did. That's what we need. We don't need to see the actual, I don't know. I
don't need to see a grown man lying on top of a child.
Right.
Even if it's portrayed by actors. I don't need to see that.
Right. Because the fear itself, that actress, the fear on her face as she hid in the bathroom was enough.
It was enough to tell you exactly what was happening in her household, what she was dealing with on a daily basis, and the fact that she was still calling him daddy. The way she said it, I got goosebumps. And I was like, I need to protect this baby.
Yes.
Like, so yeah, no, I didn't need to see anything else.
No, I think I even picked up my phone and was like looking at another screen while I listened to it because seeing the look on her face is too recognizable.
I sped it up. I think I watched it in like 4 speed so that I can get through it because it was too much.
Yeah, because if you're a female and you haven't seen that look on your own face, you've seen it on your friends.
Yeah.
That's really hard.
And the fact that you can say that, probably 1 out of 1 know that face.
Yes. It's something that we don't need more visual confirmation for.
No, because we've all seen it.
Yeah. If seeing the face in the movie was hard enough that I had to look at my phone, that was far enough for me.
Yeah.
So thank you. I appreciate that was all we got.
I didn't need any more than that.
No. And the internalized homophobia for Richie and the way that was reconciled at the end was really sweet. It was sad, but I feel like a lot of his career was based on hiding himself. I don't know. I really, really liked the movies. I still don't understand why things have to float.
Yeah, that's one thing that I didn't understand either because when in the first one, when you're in the cave and you see all the kids floating, I'm like, okay, so we're gonna get an explanation as to why the floating is happening. Yeah. I need some sort of comparison to the balloon and the floating because obviously they're one and the same. So where is the connection? And I still don't know.
No. And also why the statement, we all float down here, would be so enticing to a child.
Yeah.
Like, I never could understand that even when I heard the line growing up when people quoted the movie. And then I saw it in this movie, and like you, in the sewer when they showed all the children floating, I was like, awesome, I'm gonna get some closure. And I got none of it.
No. And so what I do with some things that I don't want to remember is I just don't remember them. So I don't remember a lot of the book. And I wonder, was it answered in the book? I don't know. Will I read it to find out? No. You want to tell me? Tell me in a comment. Tell us in the story. Right. I'm not going to read it.
Email us.
Yeah. I don't want to find... I mean, I want to find out, but I'm not going to go digging to find out.
Right. I'm not going to look for the answer by going through the whole thing again.
Yeah. It was tough enough to read In the Tall Grass, watch In the Tall Grass, and then watch it, and then even try to watch the old one. It was hard. hard, so I won't do it again.
I think I actually would watch the new movies again because like the acting, the casting, the story, all of it was so well done.
It wasn't as traumatizing to me. It wasn't as traumatizing as the others.
I'm the type of person who collects things based on whether or not I feel like its message will hold up later and something I would want to discuss. And I think that It and It Chapter 2 are things that I would want to own so that I could have that discussion later. Stranger danger. Don't go crawling in sewers. Like,
and my daughter is so on brand with whatever we talk about. She came up to me yesterday. She's like, look, I made this paper boat. Let's go float it in the street. I was like, hell no. And my mom's like, why not? I was like, you've watched It? And she goes, yeah, what happens? I was like, mother, we will watch the opening scene because I'm going to show her the new one because no, we're not going to do it. We'll float it in a little plastic container at home inside the house. Thank you very much. Away from the drains.
Yeah, how does your kid always know? Because the imaginary friend thing happened too.
I don't know. Listen, it freaks me out a little bit.
That was weird timing.
I swear, yesterday I was like, oh, now you want to... Because I was literally writing up my notes on the laptop. And she's like, I want to float this boat. And I was like, no, thanks. No, thank you. And I want to make a quick mention of my stupid neighborhood. Because when it released in 2017... So I didn't follow it. I didn't know when it released. I didn't know anything about it because I didn't want to watch it because I was traumatized from the original one. But in my stupid neighborhood, because I live with people who have no life, there were red balloons by all the sewer drains for like 2 weeks.
Wow.
And I had to go and pop them because I was like, no. And they would reappear. And I was not having it.
Oh no. Yeah, that's okay. Man, white people have way too much time on their hands.
You said it, I did it.
Yeah, let's just be honest here. White people got too much time on their hands. Ugh, dumb.
Why don't we talk about the ancientness of his predator? Because it was hinted that he was an ancient demon.
So yeah, that is one more thing that I found closure on in the movie, was not just the line of like, we all float down here and somehow that would be enticing. I absolutely would not have worked on me as a child. But the idea that it was ancient, because wasn't it Mike who had done all that research and he found out that it had been happening for thousands of years or whatever, and that even the natives of the land had tried defeating it?
Yeah.
So I had lots of questions. How is the same entity still alive? Was it still alive because it fed every 27 years and hibernated? Was it... there were lots of weird aspects to that weren't clear. They seemed to clear up its origin a bit, of it being otherworldly, and I don't know, but they didn't clear up how it stayed alive, whether it was breeding.
They didn't talk at all about why its reach was only dairy.
Right.
When they said it was ancient, I was like, oh, okay, so why is the reach only dairy and why is he not branching out? Because I would assume that if you're trying to consume children, that you would want to reach out and get more during your hunting season.
Now, I kind of thought part of that was the sewer system, because they mentioned it briefly in the movie about the way the sewer system was constructed, because we've said it was very large for such a small town, especially in the floating scene and him transforming. That was a lot of space dedicated to a sewer for a small town. So I wonder if the sewer system was based on other entrapments set by the original indigenous people to keep it isolated in that area, because they also mentioned the way that you get lost in the sewers, the egress and things like that. So I think that was part of it. But if he was so clever, that was the other part that confused me.
Right.
The entity was so clever to be able to inherently know your fears, to take the shape of them, to hunt, all those things. How is it possible that it couldn't escape?
Exactly. I don't know. And how soon after they killed it the first time did it come back?
Yeah.
That was one thing I didn't get an answer to as well. Because if it's an ancient demon, which I say demon just because, I don't know, but ancient alien creature, whatever it was, what did it take for it to come back?
And was that something inherent to the town? Is that why the town was so incapable of protecting itself? Or okay, also historically speaking, indigenous people don't inhabit the land that has historical curse or historical negativity attached to it.
Yeah.
You know, if their mythos says, like with Skinwalker Ranch, the indigenous, I think the UTE, they had historically always spoken about that land as something to be feared or avoided. And they have geographic boundaries boundaries to it. So it wasn't inhabited once Skinwalker Ranch was made there. So like, why would Derry have been the opposite?
Right.
If it was something that the indigenous people had to battle against or, work against and entrap, why would there continually have been habitation there?
Right.
Because then couldn't you just starve it out?
Right. I mean, it's very well known that indigenous people are a lot smarter than we are. But I mean, I just feel like if they were able to battle it and defeat it, great. But once it came back, because it didn't die, once it came back, would they have battled it again, continually carrying on that cycle every 27 years? Or, like you said, would they have left and starved it?
I'd have burned it down.
Me too.
I'd have set the tunnel entrapment on fire and pieced out.
Yeah. I really liked that play on it, that it was an ancient entity, and I wish that we had gotten a little bit more on it.
Yes, same. See, Stephen King, those are the things we need more information on.
Yeah.
Not the child abuse or the sex scene or any of those things or the racism. We need more closure on what the entity is and why it's doing the thing it's doing or how it's doing it.
Yes. And also, I need to know why, if everyone called it, where did the name Pennywise come from? Because that's another one I don't want to look up.
Oh, he apparently also named it after, he apparently also based it off of the troll under the bridge from the Three Billy Goats Gruff.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it kind of was in, like, the sewer and stuff. It doesn't say anything about
where the name Pennywise came from.
Yeah.
I mean, y'all, if y'all read the book and y'all know the book by heart, let us know.
I like some of the top questions. Is Pennywise real? No! People!
Yes, he is.
Oh my gosh. I also, as I was scrolling through the Google results, they showed, I forgot that there were like all these old pictures of him too, where he had existed.
Oh, yeah.
Through the years and through the generations, and I was like, I don't like it.
It was kind of cartoony in the old 80s one, and so I would just kind of laughed.
No, and the new one, especially with like Skarsgård like making that face like up through the makeup, and I was like, I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's not great.
Yeah. One of the things that was different from the old one and the new one, as far as I watched, Mike was the one who had all the research.
Yes.
Because his dad gave him the research. And after you got to know the losers, because there was a girl there, he got to show them his research, and they were like, oh, that's who it is, and whatever. And in the new one, it was Ben who was doing all the research. Which, shout out to Ben for the glow up. Yeah. Because I was like, oh my god, that guy is so fine.
Yeah, that was nice.
That was so nice.
Oh, it made me so mad. How come?
I didn't have that glow up.
Well, no, the Bev thing. You know, like how she kept misremembering things.
I know.
It drove me crazy.
I was so mad. I was like, it's not Bill, you dunce.
Right. Also, like, I mean, sure, McAvoy's a handsome man.
Right.
But, I mean, let's be honest.
Listen, McAvoy was handsome until that movie that he did with M. Night Shyamalan.
Splinter? Where he was the multiple personalities.
Yeah, and I haven't even watched the movie, and that's how badly I was scared. I haven't even watched the movie, but
it's really good.
Yeah, I mean, I will watch it because I hear that there's a connection between that and like a couple of other Shyamalan movies, so I'll watch it.
It's like part of a trilogy.
Yeah. Did you ever watch The Visit?
No.
Girl, listen, I'm an M. Night Shyamalan fangirl. That one freaked me out.
Really?
Freaked me out.
Huh.
It is so scary and so terrifying because it deals with kids. Oh. Okay. And it is so scary. Probably the scariest movie of his that I've ever watched. I haven't watched Split.
That's
I
what
haven't watched Split, but this one was really freaky.
Yeah, Split, Glass, and Unbreakable are all supposed to exist in the same universe. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So
because we haven't been together for a while recording, so we need to get on all these tangents.
I think that's it. That there were two things I wanted closure on, didn't get them. I thought that all of the horror that was actually scary was the real life horror of child sex abuse or abuse in general of children.
Agreed.
And the racism and just the tragedy of Stanley and what he did, the bittersweetness of it.
Eddie with his mom.
Oh my god. That was done so well, though.
It was done so well.
The internalized homophobia. And, I mean, Pennywise was really, for me, just a plot device for them to work through their own trauma.
And a very well done plot device, too.
Yeah.
Because, like, I didn't really realize he was a plot device until you just said so. And yeah, he is.
He was the way with which because when they left Derry, they basically re-traumatized themselves. They didn't learn from anything.
Yeah.
They just continued the same mistakes into their adulthood and were miserable. And so Pennywise was the means with which they were able to reconfront those parts of themselves and heal themselves because the adults failed them. And the outside world too failed them.
It did. I wonder if that's why they were so super scared the second time around.
Yeah, because they definitely felt like they had lost a lot of their nerve. Now, granted, part of that could have been because the memories came back so slowly. Like, that in of itself could be very frightening as someone whose mind plays tricks on them all the time. Yeah, I really enjoyed them. I think it's definitely a movie that I would rewatch. I'll probably own eventually. I'm one of those weirdos that likes to have the physical copy.
My DVD collection is almost as impressive as your book collection.
Have you seen the DVD collection I have?
No.
Girl, when we're done recording, I'll show you. It's insane. Yeah, no, I really liked it. I'm glad that we watched it. I'm glad we watched it more than In the Tall Grass.
I'm glad that we ended on this one. I'll put it that way. Because if I was going to end on anything, I'm glad it was this. And I'm glad that our little end cap of King and Hill didn't include Lock and Key, and that could be its own separate, because that one is magical and beautiful and wonderful, and you can't tell me anything wrong about it.
Yes. Well, and we'll have to read the graphic novel too.
Oh gosh, I can't wait to reread them. Love them.
So as we get closer to 31 Days of Horror, we're going to kind of take a different look at horror and discuss its impacts. So we're going to discuss the ways in which we consume it.
Yeah.
The ways in which it is portrayed and taken in by media. And then we're going to discuss a chapter from a book that I bought. I would have bought anyway, but I bought for this. And then we're going to go over Chilling Adventures of Sabrina and her many iterations. We're going to have one more Boundaries episode, and then we're going to hit the big 31 Days of Horror.
Yeah.
We hope you guys are looking forward to it. All right. Thanks, guys.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye. If you liked listening to us ramble on about horror, subscribe to our podcast and tell your friends. And if you would like to follow us on social media, you can find us on Instagram or Facebook at LLOTL Podcast.
Check out our website by going to lastlibraryontheleft.com. Be sure to visit our About Us page to discover our 2 truths and a lie. Or, if you'd like to send us an email, you can reach us at somethingwicked@lastlibraryontheleft.com.